Hey guys, SickMotion here with the patch 6.11 notes. Um, I tried something new with the last ones, doing like a video running in the background. Some people said from the feedback that they enjoyed it, but for the most part, what I heard about it is people liked it just being more focused on just a giant kind of static screen of me scrolling through the notes. It's easier to follow along, they said. So I'll go back to doing it this way. This way is actually easier for me. It's no problem to me. I was just trying out a few things to see what people thought of it. Anivia, she got nerfed. Apparently, she was too good after the changes they did. Now her mana on her ult ticks 10 seconds more, or sorry, 10 mana per second earlier more, and 5 mana per second earlier at level 11. But at level 16 with her third level of her ult, it's the same. So have to manage your mana better early. Azir got completely dumpstered with a nerf, double nerf this patch. You can no longer use your W to do free damage to turrets just by walking up and clicking on it. And your Emperor's Divide is 3 seconds at all ranks, down from 5, 6, 7. So it's less than half at level 3 of his ult, and still almost half at level 1. Exactly half it too, and no longer gives bonus movement speed to allies that pass through the wall. So just nerfs all across the board, just absolutely destroyed. Corki, since the Trinity Force changed later on in this patch note video here, Corki has his AD ratio on his missiles increased later on in the game since he doesn't have that Trinity Force burst. Echo, Tank Echo, also dumpstered here. Cooldown on the same target for his passive is 3 to 5 seconds. That's the huge nerf for Tank Echo there. The Time Winder has lower base damage, but a higher ratio all throughout the game. Lower base damage. That's on the return damage is lower. The outgoing hit is higher. It basically all the changes here are aimed at AP Echo will be stronger. Tank Echo will feel a lot less meaningful. The stun, which was already a really long time, is half a second less. Still a really long time though. And the ultimate base damage is down 50 across the board at every level, and the base AP ratio is up 0.2. So once again, kind of promoting tank, not doing Tank Echo, doing more of an AP build. Alawi got some changes here, some huge quality of life changes. Before I mention them, to me, this is what they did with Xin Zhao. If you remember a while ago in the patches, they did some quality of life and some buffs to Xin Zhao, changing a little bit of how his abilities worked and making him a lot stronger. What that did for him was it made him feel really, really strong, was getting played a lot, getting picked a lot of games, banned some games as well, and then he got nerfed a little bit to tone him down. What they did was they made him stronger at what he was good at and didn't fix any of his problems at why he wasn't being picked. That's exactly what they did with Alawi here for the most part. Made her stronger at what she was already good at, and didn't fix any of her underlying problems that make her feel like a weak pick. Alawi's tooltips updated. Tentacle Smash now increases all tentacle damage by a certain percentage rather than scaling off bonus attack damage. So you don't have to build damage for your tentacles to do more by leveling Q. You can build tanky and your tentacles will still start to do more damage by leveling your Q. The builds still kind of feels about the same. This, I guess, would be feeling better if you have to build more defensive early. Really nice change here. The Harsh Lesson just does your basic attack damage plus a percentage of the max health plus 2% per 100 AD. So you have a percentage. The tooltip actually explains it really well as well. It tells you up to a second decimal point how much percentage health damage you're doing rather than just making you round it up to 1 and guess what the actual hidden decimal is. So that feels nice as well against tanks. And her E, the slow duration, is half a second less, but it no longer decays over the duration, so it'll make it a lot easier to chase champions. But other than that, like, you still need to set up all your tentacles in your area to feel like you're doing very meaningful things, and you still have to fight in your ultimate. I feel, like I said, I feel like they strengthened her strengths and didn't address any of the reasons that she wasn't being picked in the first place. Jax, the stacks on his ult fall off one at a time rather than all at once. They fall off very rapidly, but the worst feeling is having full stacks and then not getting that auto off in time, missing it by like a millisecond, and then having to start over. Now you'll start it at like 6 or 7 and then be able to get right back up there, which is really, really nice since they changed his stacks to be higher stacking. Kindred changes here. Champion mark cooldown is decreased So you can, if you're ganking a lot early, you snowball a lot harder. Basically, they made her even more feast or famine. You can get stacks earlier. There is a pattern for where they go depending on how many stacks you already have, what jungle monsters will be marked. Her Q does less base damage throughout the game, but increases by 5 per stack that you have. At level 5 of your Q, you do 45 less damage. So, I mean, that's 9 stacks, right? So that's still quite a lot of stacks, but you can get stacks earlier, and you're more rewarded for your stacks because there's no cap on it. So she's a little bit weaker feeling, I think, early, just because she has less damage, even though she can snowball harder. More feast or famine, in my opinion. Also, the E is lost 20% of its slow and does less base damage. So it was really frustrating when you got slowed by the E for 70%. You're just like, yep, I'm dead. Level 3 gank, yeah, I'm dead. Under my tower, still dead. So very, very, very feast or famine, also weaker early. More likely to famine, but I still ban her because she's super annoying. Lucian nerfs here. Second shot no longer procs Hurricane or Rage Blade if you, for some reason, had a Lucian building those items. His Q beam range is 200 less, so a lot less aggressive to poke down in lane and in more area damage in team fights. The ratio is also lowered, and his W range was lowered. This doesn't really address any of the underlying problems with Lucian right now. He is a little bit weaker in the things that he already does strong, but the reasons he's still a strong pick all remain the same. So, kind of the opposite of Alawi in my opinion. Maokai, base health regen lower, regen stat lower. I mean, you still use your passive to regen mostly, so that's minor. This is the major one. 2 seconds longer cooldown on Q at level 1. Your Q is what you level first. It does scale down to be 6 seconds at max rank. But at level 1, it's a lot easier to trade with a Maokai in lane because he doesn't have his Q up every 6 seconds. Nidalee also got dumpster. This is like the huge dumpster nerf patch. Nidalee, her passive here, movement speed increased while moving towards champions within 5,500 range, down to 1,400. It literally lost 4,100 range on that. It still works in the bushes, though. Like, you still gain movement speed in the bushes, even if you're not running at someone. So, apparently, the reason for this is she was triggering this ability to gain movement speed, not even really hunting the champion she was hunting. So that's more about her sight range. Her pounce also doesn't reset 70% anymore. It resets up to 70% at max cougar form level, but down to 40% at level 1. So a lot less bouncing around early from Nidalee. So huge nerfs by her. Still really strong in my opinion. Huge nerfs to Rise here. Not really that huge. 20 base damage off of his Q at a higher level, and the ult is 50 seconds at all ranks rather than going down 10 seconds per level. I still also ban Rise. I think he's very annoying to play against. He's not very fun to play against. He's not very fun to play. But he's a little bit weaker. Swain here. Guess what? More nerfs. Damage on his Q per second is toned down later on, and the base healing against champions is toned down a lot later on. Kind of trying to target tank Swain, but AP Swain still not the worst, but definitely losing that base damage will make him feel a little more killable. Talia got some more buffs here in all of her stuff. I still think she's undertoned. Maybe we just haven't seen the best player of it tell us how to do it, but I still think she's undertoned. Vel'Koz here, really, really nice quality of life and buffs to offset all the nerfs so far this patch. Slow duration on his Q is increased to 2.6 from 2 seconds at max level of there. So you have more time to set up all your other abilities with that slow. Also, the ultimate is lower base damage, 150 at max rank, 50 at lower at beginning rank, but the death ray also, it still does true damage to people that you have researched, but it will accumulate 1 stack of your passive every 0.7 seconds up to 3 stacks while ulting them. So if you're able to get off 2 stacks on someone but can't actually get the third, it doesn't feel super awful to just ult them because you'll still get a lot of true damage off on them by getting a stack from your ultimate to pop it over 3, get that true damage burst. So you got to keep in mind, they lowered the base damage here, but once they get that the 3 stacks of your passive, it pops and does true damage for popping, and then you also do true damage for the rest of the ultimate. So it'll probably, I think it'll feel better actually, even though the base damage looks lower. Zed here, lower base damage on the Shuriken, lower bonus attack damage ratio, but the damage per additional Shuriken. So if you're actually able to hit all of them, up, like if you hit all three, that person's probably in a lot of pain. Has gone up to 75% from 50. So big emphasis on actually just hitting your skill shots rather than face rolling your keyboard with your higher damage. Some visual changes on our end, so not really too much. Here's all the item changes here. Boots of Swiftness, super nerf. Now the Boots of Swiftness are only 10 movement speed faster than all the other boots. They still do the movement or the slow reduction, so they're still good in certain places. Zerker Greaves here, up 5%. No one was really building them. All the other boots, other than the stat that they give you, like extra movement speed here, extra attack speed here, extra armor here, all the other boots do something as a unique passive. Basic attack damage reduction on tabbies, slow reduction on swifties, tenacity on merc treads. All the other boots do something extra. Zerkers just have attack speed on them. That's part of the reason they feel not that great. You don't get that unique passive out of your boots choice there, so it's kind of like whatever. Basic attack reduction as up 2% on tabbies, so that'll feel really nice for anyone who builds that. Trinity Force, this is one of the huge changes of the patch that's most talked about. The Trinity Force has been changed. No longer builds out of a Zeal. It's a little bit cheaper. Triggering price right there, not an even number. The attack speed on it is up by 25% because it now builds out of a Stinger. Cooldown reduction is also up 10% to 20% because it builds out of that Stinger, but you lose 20% crit chance. So on champions, we're building it because it synergizes with crit, not as good. Sorry for Corki and Gangplank, etc. Champions that synergize off the Spellblade proc and will benefit from the attack speed and higher cooldown reduction. So Jax, Aurelia, Zin was listed in the patch here, so that I would actually be pretty strong on him. One that I thought would be Shyvana would feel really strong. Jungle Vi could feel strong with this. The attack speed synergizes a lot better than random crits with those. Hecarim with a Fervor. Hecarim still feels really strong with the Trinity Force. If you get Fervor, you're getting more Fervor stacks with that attack speed. Really big changes to it, but overall I like it for the champions that I would build it on. Nashor's Stinger got changed as well. It's 15% attack speed lower, and it costs a little bit lower as well to go with things. Anything that it built out of gold price is unchanged. And another item change here, Wit's End. Still probably not going to feel the greatest, but it is 300 gold less, and it now builds out of a Negatron Cloak, a dagger, and a recurve bow rather than a recurve bow, null mantle, and a dagger. The combination cost is 480 rather than 1050, so you're not sitting on that shitty null mantle magic resistance all game until you get it and just feel really weak by the time you end up finally getting it. A lot of times you'd get it because you're like feeling strong at the point. You're like, Wit's End will work well this game, and then something happens where you're not able to complete it as quick as you wanted because it was more expensive. All in all, it'll feel a lot better to build it. I'm still kind of on the fence of how often are you actually going to build it anyway now. A lot of really big controversy here as well with dynamic queue changes here. They made it so anyone above Diamond 5 can no longer queue up as a dynamic squad. You can only queue up with up to 3 people. I like that for the aspect of solo queue, but what do you do now if you want to play ranked 5s and you're Diamond 5 or higher? There's no ranked 5s mode. They said they're not bringing it back. You can't play ranked 5s in solo queue, which I think is stupid as it is, but you can't go in there because you've hit the diamond threshold. You no longer have the option to play ranked 5s. Also, they introduced autofill. It's not, I don't know if it's in this patch here, but autofill for higher tiered matchmaking. If you go in for the timer for way too long, like I am experiencing, like even in like Diamond 2 matchmaking times being like 25, 30 minutes sometimes. Inconsistently, not always that long, but sometimes it still feels bad to get that. It really hurts the view count when you're streaming as well, sitting through that, and I honestly get sleepy. But they introduced autofill, so if they're not able to put a game together and find your role because there's not enough players at whatnot looking, it'll just put you into any role. So what they did is they changed the entire system. They screwed up a bunch of stuff in solo queue, took away ranked teams, made it so that you actually get your roll. Made the queue timers a lot longer, but you get your rolls, so that's kind of the trade-off. And now they have this whole system still that I don't really like personally. That's my opinion on it. And now we're back to you don't get your roll every game. I had to autofill support once today. That's fine. It's whatever. Like everyone's gonna have to, except everyone doesn't. I've even in like high diamond I've been trolled a couple times because people didn't want to play what they got autofilled to. So we're back to the same problems we had this season, adding on to the same problems that we have all of this season and last season. So now we're just kind of left with problems on problems rather than new problems fixing old problems. But yeah, I'm not gonna like sit here and complain about it. I don't like the new system. I know a lot of people share the same opinion as me. Also with the whole thing of like now you can't dynamic queue on the ladder, not very meaningful when all of the top like 200 challenger spots, not all of them are going to remain in stone there, but a lot of the ones that are at the top of the ladder, like top 100, top 50, they have enough points to play one game every 10 days and stay up there for like the ladders. Like everyone climbed the ladder using the 5-man dynamic queues and whatnot. Not saying everyone, but a lot of people did. And now the ladder's there, and now they took away the option to do that, but they didn't do a ladder reset. So a lot of this season, like top ranking system and stuff is still tarnished. A lot of people don't even take the solo queue rating that seriously anymore. There's been a lot of talk about people making like a website that kind of measured your ranking instead of using the in-game league clients ranking for people who want to be like measured as a solo player, not like how hard you can get carried with a team or how hard you can beat people playing as a solo without the option of voice comms while you and your team squad are sitting in there in Skype actually being able to communicate and whatnot. But there is a rule. Riot said they don't want anybody to make any type of ranking systems other than their own. So, I don't know. There's a lot of conspiracy and a lot of problems that can be talked about, but we're just going through the patch here. A bunch of bug fixes that I never really go through anyway, and some skins that are coming out as well. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching the patch note video. I'll leave it at that. Take it easy. Hopefully you found some interesting stuff there, or got clarified on a couple things. Make sure to hit the like button if you did find this helpful. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't and would like to see more content like this. My social media as well as my stream link are in the description as normal if you want to check those out. And take it easy till next time, guys.